Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of What's Your Next. I'm Stacy Riska, your lifestyle and franchise matchmaker, here to help you do what you love and love what you do. Thanks for being here because today we're going to pull back the curtain on a business that checks a lot of boxes for what candidates tell me that they want in a business. Maybe you can relate to this.
Welcome to What's Your Next. This is the go-to podcast for aspiring business owners who want to get to the next level, escape the rat race, and give their middle finger to the corporate 9-to-5. If you want financial freedom, work-life balance, and the business of your dreams, you're in the right place. Dave and Stacy Riska, husband-wife franchising duo, openly share their successes, failures, and lessons learned in franchising, business ownership, and working with your spouse.
They'll tell me they want something simple. They want something that's recession resistant. They want something that's high demand. They want something that has strong ROI, and they want something that has strong brand recognition. They're not asking for a lot, right? Well, today's featured franchise checks all of those boxes and more. Handyman Connection. Handyman Connection is a brand that's been a trusted name in the home services space for more than 30 years. And today, you're going to learn more about this exciting opportunity and how you can own it in your area. And to help us do that, I am joined by Steve Lane and Tracy Phelts, who are both the Director of Franchise Development at Handyman Connection. Now, it will quickly become clear to you that Handyman Connection isn't just about fixing homes. It's about building long-term recurring revenue and real equity. So whether you're looking for a business that maybe is hands-on or you prefer something a little bit more semi-absentee, a model that you can scale, Steve and Tracy are going to walk us through how Handyman Connection makes all of that possible and why now just might be the perfect time to make your move. So grab your notebook. Let's dive into an opportunity that just might be your next. Welcome, Tracy and Steve. Tell us more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy, for that great introduction. We love what you're doing, and we're excited to present to you today and present to your clients. So here's a snapshot of our agenda. It's really just going to be an overview into the Handyman Connection model, and talk about the investment and really what you can look forward to at Handyman Connection. So.
All right. So my name's Steve Lane, and I co-run franchise development here with Tracy Phelts. So one of the things we're proud of, we bring a lot of experience in franchising to the table. Between the two of us, we're well over 30 years of experience in franchising from both an operations and development point. So I got my start as an owner in franchising. I started a painting franchise in North Idaho, and it was a fantastic experience, and I learned a ton. I loved it. I spent 13 years with that company. I ended up opening in a second franchise and in Central Washington, and went on to coach owners there, sell franchises, and I've since moved on to VP role at another large nationwide house painting franchise, and that's led me into the Handyman Connection family. I'll let Tracy share a little bit of her background as well.
Yeah. So like Steve, I have a very extensive background in franchising and very extensive in the operations side too. So not just franchise development. We really understand what it looks like after that franchise agreement gets signed too. So I had the pleasure of working with Steve at a previous company, a very well-known nationwide franchising company where I worked in multiple roles in operations and even in their executive team. So I've really had the pleasure of understanding the franchisee and franchisor perspective. So something that is really important to know about Handyman Connection is our model. We're very relationship driven. We believe that making real connections in your territory can create a ton of repeat and reoccurring revenue for you. So we have a model, customers for life. What that means is working with that same customer in their home multiple times a year. So you have the ability at Handyman Connection because you can do so many different types of work in the home. You're not pigeonholed to one type of job type. You can do painting, you can do electrical, plumbing, repair, remodel, building decks. You name it, you have the ability at Handyman Connection. So you really get to serve that customer multiple times a year and create that great repeat business. In your franchise, you should expect to have at least 50% repeat customer business for your territory. So very substantial. Um, with that, we also believe in building the relationships with the craftsmen as well and building craftsmen for life. So a big question that we get asked is, do you have to have a whole entire army of team members or employees, right? And the answer is no. You don't have to have a fleet. You can be very successful with just, most people start with just about five craftsmen. And each craftsman can produce about $150,000. So very substantial business with just a few craftsmen. Also, a big question is, how do we hire these people, especially if I don't have industry experience as a franchise owner? And the answer to that question is we'll help you. We have an amazing home office team, a whole department for hiring and retention, where we will manage your candidate or your applicant inflow for you. We'll do everything from posting on job boards to doing phone interviews, scheduling interviews, background checks, all of the stuff that you might need a little bit of help with. We'll be there to take care of and ensure that you get some really good craftsmen. Um, and then, Steve, you wanted to talk about a little bit about investing in them, right?
And one thing I wanted to also add to this too is that the model is a bit open in that you do not have to have, you can choose whether you want to have W-2 craftsman or 1099. Some owners even have a mix of a combination of both. So I just thought I would add that. One thing I love about being in Handyman Connection is that we really invest in the culture here. And as Tracy said, like the relationships matter. I've been at three major franchisors in my 20 years. And I've never been at a company where the company actually invites and brings along the labor force, part of its labor force to the annual convention. I love that about it. It's a lot of fun. So you're looking at a picture there on the left on the screen. That was our conference last year in Miami. We had got a large boat to go deep sea fishing. I think I had about 30 craftsmen. There's me in there in the middle, and the sea was angry that day. It did turn into some seasickness events, but we left with a lot of great memories. It was a lot of fun. So I really love that we actually invest in the culture, and we do every time Tracy and I travel out to franchise locations, we always try to take some craftsmen out to lunch. So I think that's great, and these are the things that sort of foster retention in a business. So I want to talk about coaching for life. This is one of the things that really attracted me to coming to join this team is that we have, I would consider, a pretty elite and highly experienced team at our home office. The average person that works at Handyman Connection, myself, Tracy included, has on average about 20 years of experience in franchise coaching. And so, I think when our candidates leave the team day, our discovery day, they leave with a lot of confidence once they get to actually see and meet our people. We're also very passionate and good at what they do. So what happens is once we have gone through the discovery process, which Tracy will talk about in a couple moments, we've gotten to a decision point. What happens is once we sign a franchise agreement with someone, they go into our launch training. We call that boot camp. And it takes about 5 weeks. It's virtual. It's pretty flexible. Some owners are still doing their other job while they're doing this. And it leads into and so basically what they're doing in that time is they are setting the foundations for the business, setting up accounts, finding their office, recruiting, getting the ball rolling on recruiting craftsmen, and just kind of learning the basics of the business. That transitions into a live week of training where they go to our HQ in Cincinnati, and they will spend the week with our whole home office staff and learn in the office, like kind of how to run their day-to-day operation. So after that, once someone launches their business, which is pretty quick, it's one of the big features of this franchise is that it's a very quick startup. You can, sign an agreement, go right into train, the next cohorts of training, and literally 6 weeks later, you can be operational and bringing in revenue, which is definitely a differentiator. But once someone, finishes their training, begins the ongoing coaching and development of them and their skill and running the business. So they will have weekly meetings and coaching events with our both our marketing, their marketing coach and their operations coach to help them take, a big lofty business goal, break it down into very small parts, and give them guidance along the way so they have some structure and direction to what they're doing. I wanted to just like illustrate an example because one of the reasons, people come to franchising, myself included, I got into a painting franchise. I had no idea how to run a business. That's why I got into it. And it works really, they tend to work if you follow the model. And so I wanted to illustrate one of our owners, Corey Farre, who is just now beginning his third year. He's in the Louisville, Kentucky area. Year one, he did a little over 700,000, doubled that, 1.4 million in his second year. And this year he's well on his way to trending over 2 million. How does that happen? Obviously, Corey works hard. One of the things that I notice in him is that he really leans into we have an awesome group of franchise owners here that interact with one another. I love that about our company. It has kind of a small family feel, and those owners that really choose to engage in that or any franchise system, I think are really setting themselves up for success. There's a lot they can learn from one another. And then in addition to that, all of the support and coaching that Handyman Connection offers, this is a guy that's really great at utilizing that, showing up for every coaching event and meeting that we have with him. He even, brings his office staff, his office manager, his customer service rep, into the fold when it comes to the coaching and development that we offer from our home office. And so those are definitely key behaviors that will impact someone's success in a franchise.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we wanted to talk about as well is what is our discovery process and how do you learn about Handyman Connection? So I just wanted to take a moment to share. So during our discovery process, we will meet a number of times with you, and we'll start it off by doing a series of webinars to teach you more about the Handyman Connection process. So we'll talk marketing, we'll talk customer acquisition, fee structures, technology, training, hiring craftsmen, and retention. So we're going to help you to understand the model. And then we're going to give you access to talk to our franchisees and do validation calls. And so you'll get to talk to some of our franchisees. And then you'll get our access to our FDD, of course, as well. And that's our franchise disclosure documents. You'll have a series of conversations with our executive team members, do a virtual meet the team day where it's a half day event where you get to meet all of the people that would be supporting you in your franchise from our home office. And then something that we do a little bit special for and unique to Handyman Connection is we'll actually do a live validation trip. What that means is we'll pay to bring you out to a franchise owner's location and let you spend a couple of days with them. And so you'll go out with the craftsman and you'll see what it's like for a craftsman to do a job. You'll go meet the office staff in the office and see what their day-to-day looks like. And you'll have some one-on-one time with that franchise owner to ask them questions as well. And the reason we do this is because sometimes there's a lot of fear about what does it look like to be a franchise owner for this brand, for any brand. And we like to show you. We like to give you that day in the life and help take some of that unknown out of the discovery process. So you get a chance to meet everybody, get a chance to see what it would look like for you in the operation. And we have a high success rate with this. A majority of our candidates will sign a franchise agreement after attending one of these validation trips.
So obviously we have a great process that I think instills a lot of confidence in people is if they stick with it and continue to learn about our brand. So I wanted to take a moment and talk a bit about just what our availability looks like. I'm going to start. There are some locations that we've had a long history and that are actually currently for sale. Colorado Springs, 25-year history. Blue Ash, our flagship franchise that started it all, I think in the late 80s, early 90s. That one's up for sale. So, if you see anything on the screen that is in a location that you might be, in or near, definitely bring that up to Stacy. But we have a pretty abundant amount of availability across all major markets in the US and Canada as well. Really, I would say the only place that we are sold out entirely is going to be Nashville. Everywhere else, definitely ask Stacy if you live in one of these locations and you like what you're hearing so far. So I want to speak on what the investment looks like to get into this franchise, and then some numbers, what they call the item 19 in the franchise disclosure document. Those are called financial performance representations. So our average franchise owner is doing about $642,000 in annual sales, and with a pretty impressive average gross margin of 50%. To get into the franchise, it is a $70,000 franchise fee. One thing that we like to do as a way to say thank you for your service to our veterans and first responder friends is that we offer a $10,000 discount. So in a fairly significant reduction to the overall entry into the franchise. So there's a $10,000 discount there, $70,000 to get in. And then in franchising, you're going to have some ongoing fees that are percentages of your revenue that go from to the franchisor. So the royalty is 6%. There's national marketing that's 2% and 1% technology. These are fairly common numbers in most franchises you'll find. And then the last thing you'll see here at the bottom is that we call it the estimated initial investment. That's basically what we're saying. Here's what we think you're going to spend in your first few months as you're getting this thing going. On the low end, we think that's going to be around 110,000. Very top, probably 230,000. And included in that is the franchise fee. And so I think that's important to note, but you're going to need some operating capital to get things going, right? There's going to be like marketing costs and your insurance, and you have a very small office lease, and paying your customer service rep. Again, there's a kind of a minutia of detail, and we'll get into that when we start exploring the walking you through the franchise disclosure document. But the end, I would say for most people like owner operator, they tend to be on the lower end of that, but we'll talk through that in your own personal situation and provide you the tools in our discovery process to have a good figure of what your cost might be to enter based on your situation.
And next, we wanted to talk about who would make a good fit for Handyman Connection. And that's really anybody. You don't have to have experience to be a successful franchise owner at Handyman Connection. Most of our franchise owners do not have industry experience. And so really what you do need is you need to be able to be coachable and have our expert coaches work with you. And you need to be able to follow the model. We have a proven business model that is effective and it works. And so you just need to be able to follow that model. But as far as your background, you can have any sort of background and come from any sort of spot and be very successful at Handyman Connection.
All right. So with that, we're going to kind of open this up to questions. Stacy, if there's anything more in depth that you'd like us to expand on.
Thank you, guys. This was so encompassing. You guys covered all the major points that most of my candidates ask about. I have to say, I love your name because it succinctly and just boom says who you are, what you do, who you serve. And a lot of times when I'm presenting other concepts, like the candidates will be like, well, nobody's really going to know what that is or what we do. Handyman Connection, right? You know it. And so I would imagine that helps a lot with some of the marketing. Let's first tell me more about the services part of it, because I know in my house, I always need a handyman. To me, it's an extension of my family but that's like so many things. It could be like we had a problem with our deck that needed some fixing. We had some electrical issues, some drywall issues. My parents, who are older and live in Florida, they needed a handyman just to change a light bulb that they couldn't reach. So, what kind of services do your handyman, or you call them craftsmen, which I love, what kind of services can they offer?
Yeah, so you touched on something I think that's important there. One of the things as Tracy was talking about as we're talking about the model is that there's a huge opportunity for multiple revenue streams here. And you talked about your senior parents, right? Like there are some of our owners that lean into the age in place marketplace and have subscription services and things like that. I have seen, and I'll get into the job categories in a moment. But I've seen jobs from, down, $100. I think I've heard of a job as big as $150,000 that we've done here. Typical job size going to be around $1,000, $1,200 here. And as Tracy mentioned, like the trades are pretty endless. It's probably easier to talk about what you won't or are less likely to get into. And those would be things like roofing, um, HVAC, and probably things like mold remediation and lead paint abatement, asbestos, that kind of stuff. And the reason why is like the leads are pretty abundant for just about everything else that's coming in here. Those things that I just mentioned might involve more red tape and permitting and things that you just don't need to necessarily waste your time with because you're going to get plenty of business and leads from everything else.
Yeah, I would imagine this could be a very referral based type of business because, like you're saying, the larger guys are the guys who specialize in roofing or plumbing or don't want to do the dirty work afterwards. I would imagine there's a lot of referrals. So, could you talk a little bit more about the marketing? Because that's always a hindrance that candidates bring up. Well, I'm not a good marketer. Can I succeed in this business? How do you help with that?
Yeah, so there's really kind of three ways that the leads get generated here. One, as in any franchise system, you've got your national marketing that takes place, and there's some, we do some streaming ads and some other things. You'll learn more about that when you get to sit down with our marketing team. But there's, that's not ever something that you would lean into and say, hey, that's where all my business is going to come from, and that's what your local marketing spend is for. So we're just gonna do three kind of main categories. I think one would be digital. Let's call that Google marketing, search engine optimization, pay per click. We have a company that does all that for you. It is really, I mean, other than when you're in training, you're going to be spending a week or so on marketing. After that, like this is probably an hour a week on marketing. It's really set it and forget it, just making sure the dollars are going where they need to. So that's item one would be digital. And so you really don't need to do a thing on that. Then that company's job is to keep you top of list on Google, the company that we hire out for. Second would be lead aggregators. If you're not familiar, things like Home Advisor, Angie's List, Thumbtack. So these are places where someone logs in or goes, when you search for any home service online, you need painting, drywall repair, whatever. I guarantee you on anything you search, probably about a third of that page is going to have some of the companies I just named on there. What they are designed to do is to connect a homeowner with several different contractors in the trade. Those are wildly popular. Think of them as like the new yellow pages. They will bring you a lot of leads in this business. That's another place that you want to put some of your marketing money. And then there's a combination of some things that happen locally. So things, obviously maybe you could put up some signs. You'll have a wrapped vehicle. You will have direct mail, val packs, things like that go out and kind of hit large audiences. But I think one of the things that really makes a good owner here is someone that wants to get involved in their community and network locally. Think of as Stacy mentioned, like think of the different opportunities of places you could get involved with. Who needs a realtor a handyman on a regular basis? Realtors, they always need them, right? When I bought my house, I just went with the realtor's recommendation on fixing the things on the inspector's report. So that makes a lot of sense. You network with people like realtors, home inspectors, insurance adjusters, HOAs, senior communities. The list is pretty endless, and I think our owners that are really good at that. You mentioned roofing. We have an owner in Colorado, and she did a fantastic job networking with a big solar install company, and she is the go-to for all of their solar installs that go across central Colorado to do some of the work that's left when a solar install happens.
I
So,
mean,
yeah,
that is
go ahead.
great. So you've definitely answered that question. And a common question that I also get asked about, because a lot of my candidates, of course, want a business with freedom and flexibility. So it's kind of a two-part question. But one, is this a business that would be considered home-based? And then two, is this a business that is more like banker's hours, 9 to 5, or is this a 7-day-a-week kind of a business?
Yeah,
Tracy,
that's a great question. Yeah, I can take that on. So the first part of that is this a home office or is this a home-based business? So you will have an office space, a small office space. It's not storefront. A couple hundred square feet
Mhm.
that your office staff would be in. Absolutely. You can go to that office a couple times a week if you want to. So that's the first answer. But then the second one is I'm sorry, what was the second question to that?
Well,
The
is
second
it
part to that
nine to
question?
five? Is it banker's hours,
Yes.
or do people just decide what they want to do? How do the hours work?
Yeah. So it is more banker hours. So 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. to 5-ish, Monday through Friday, for sure. So that's really nice. It doesn't have to be late evenings or weekends or holidays. It is definitely something that you can enjoy your free time with your family because you have the flexibility in your business and those more regular business hours.
yeah, one thing that I want to also just add to that, you mentioned flexibility, Stacy.
Mhm.
Now, yes, most of our owners, they're going to just have 8 or 9 to 5 p.m. That's pretty standard. But you do have the freedom. Like if, let's say, you decided, hey, I want to do emergency services or something on the weekends, so long as you had a craftsman that was, open and wanted that, right? You do have the ability to take on things that would fall outside those hours. It's not necessarily very common here, but that is an option. And also one thing to add, to what Tracy was saying on the office, there's a couple reasons I think it's important to understand why our owners run out of an office. And again, we are not talking about anything substantial with a koi pond or in the tallest building in town. But I know owners that have an office that's like $400 a month, and so here's a couple
Yep.
of reasons why. It's one, it has a lot to do with your marketing power on Google and whether you're going to show up higher on Google with it, whether if it's out of an office space versus a residential address.
Mhm.
That's reason number one. Reason number two, I think we talked about family time, right? I think, this business is going to grow, right? Like you want to have a distinction between your home and your business life. I think that's important. And also as it grows and as you grow staff, customer service reps, maybe an office manager or something, having a place of business for them to do work as well. So I think those are some of the important things. Lastly, just on the Craftsman side of things, you are trying to establish a sense of permanency for these folks that are going to come work for you as your craftsman, whether they're 1099s, W-2s, part-time, full-time. It says something a lot different when you interview them in your office versus, in the parking lot of Home Depot. And so I think for all of those reasons, it makes a lot of sense. And when you see our average owner's
Mhm.
revenues versus some other home services, the cost of an office lease in the grand scheme of things is fairly inconsequential.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. This is a concept I know my candidates are going to want to know more about. And I really find it so fascinating how you kept saying that a lot of your owners did not come from home service backgrounds,
Mhm.
but yet they're very successful in this business. So many of my candidates, for example, are veterans, people who are just sick of the corporate 9 to 5. A lot of people we're hearing about today are getting laid off and they're like, I ain't going back. I want control of my future. And so this business just can check so many of the boxes for them. Anything you want to leave as a departing message for my candidates?
I'll just say, I think once you get a chance so it is a simple business that by design is low overhead, high margin. It's a very quick startup. You are not, like as I mentioned before, you can be up and running and producing revenue in 6 weeks. And once you get to interact with our team and our culture, I think you're going to be very impressed. It's got a great, the culture in our business. And one of the last things as a final that really surprised me when I came here is some of the tenure of some of our owners. I'd never been in a franchise before where I had seen owners that have been there for 20, 30 years. Learn more about our business and understand why that is. So I think that's all we got for you, Stacy.
That is enough, and that is very impressive. So you viewers and you listeners out there, you're probably wondering, how can I get in touch with Steve and Tracy and learn more? I'm so glad you asked. So grab a day and time on my calendar by going to explore.nextlevelfranchisegroup.com, explore.nextlevelfranchisegroup.com. And we'll have a short conversation. You can share more about what you're doing now, what you might be looking for as your next. We can determine if Handyman Connection might be a great fit, and then I'll be happy to make that introduction so you can learn more. Tracy and Steve, thank you so much for joining our audience today on What's Your Next? We'll see you next time, everybody. Make it a great day. Bye-bye.